Bonehead guitars. Let's go build some junk. Okay, now plans may change. It's possible, but what I've done so far in looking at a possible design, I've really kind of liked. So I think we're going to run with that and see what happens. Now, I some time ago designed a double cut. Well, my body design evolution. I had originally taken basically a Les Paul shape, and I kind of slimmed. I made the butt a little shorter, and I slimmed the waist a little bit, and it just kind of came up with my own slight variation of the LP. And then when I decided to do a double cut, I did a little bit of adjusting that to that, plus the double cut. So it was really similar. Then some time ago when I decided to do a bass, I wanted to change it a little bit and put, a little more of an offset to it. So I really kind of like the offset a little bit with more access to the higher frets, and that kind of thing. Which, I figured with a bass was probably pretty important, but it's important everywhere. Now, what I want to try to do today, I want to produce the curve through that body that I think we will consider a final. I want to, on some of my templates, now some of them I hadn't planned on building more than once, so I didn't do everything that I have on some of them, but what I like to do, I like to have a plexiglass template so I can put it on top of wood and see what I'm looking at. I really need a center line visible and some guide as to how the neck blank is most likely going to go through that. I like to have another set of templates that's this shape cut in half. And in some cases I've cut wing templates as well. Not incredibly necessary, especially, if I've got the line on a full or a half template, that's generally good enough. But it's kind of cool to have, something that's closer to the actual wings. With this particular case, this curve that we're going to try to make in the body, I want to build a template that has that curve. Now, I got a couple ideas on how we're going to try to accomplish that. And I don't know if I'm going to try to stumble through explaining it right now, but I think it'll work, and I hope it'll work. Otherwise, we're just wasting time, and MDF, and possibly plexiglass. Now, how to draw this curve nice and clean, I'm not entirely sure. But going off the design I had pieced together in Photoshop, I know I had started about where we expect the blank to meet wing, because I was hoping I could keep this pattern inside the blank so that I can just put an ash wing on the back and a wenge wing on the back. Well, this one may be a little different, but at least on the top wing we don't have to worry about trying to match pattern in that. And now that I look at it, we may have to do a little bit down here, and that's a little scary, but maybe not too bad. But I want it to, even though it's neck through, I want it to look like the ash and the wenge go all the way through, and the pattern as well. So I know I'm coming off of here, and I know we don't get quite into the center a little past the waist and probably beyond the blank, somewhere down here. The problem of trying to freehand this. What I'm thinking though, even though I just said I'm not going to try to stumble through explaining my plan just yet, I think I'm going to take a piece of MDF and just produce this curve. Bigger than, on a piece that's bigger than our body template. And then from there, see, I got a picture in my head and trying to explain it, I just trip up. I don't like that. But if I can make a template for the curve itself, then I can reproduce that on both sides, I think. And then route that shape through the middle of a piece of MDF to get both sides. And then marry those up and cut a template off of that. That's what I'm thinking. But I think this curve should be a little bit on this side of the waist. A lot of people, and looking at the initial idea designs, it evoked the concept of yin-yang to them and looked a lot like yin-yang to them, which I didn't entirely intend, but that's kind of the idea behind yin-yang is kind of the theme of this one. It's light overtaking darkness and balance. And our wood choices cover that light and dark, but the shape really has to embody that balance. Never mind the fact that it's not, half and half. Maybe shifting balance. Someday before too long, I want to try to consolidate some thoughts into a coherent set of videos on design in general, or guitar design in general. Design for guitar builders. And some of the things we need to talk about are, concepts like the rule of thirds, which is something I think is going to play a big part in this build. I mean, it's not like I've calculated it, but our wing A piece here is going to be basically a third of the overall real estate. So I'm hoping that really adds to and enhances the aesthetic of the contrast between these two. I'm kind of thinking I like that. And I kind of think that's fairly close to what we were looking at possibly doing. I wasn't 100% sure I was happy with this, and part of that is it just seems a little fat all the way through. This is not much different, but maybe a little thinner in here. Ideally, I want this shape to look good and this shape to look good. And right now I'm not entirely happy with this top shape, but I don't know exactly what all we can do about it. Now, fretboard should probably come up somewhere in the neighborhood of there, but I don't know that for sure. And actually, my 24 3/4 template, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I think I generally want to meet the body about 16. So, yeah, the line I just drew is just beyond 24th, which is exactly where we want that. And I was just taking a stab in the dark. This is not 100%, but that's close to where that's going to go. Just as a guide. Which gives us a little perspective on what that shape is more or less going to look like. I guess the only thing I'm not terribly happy with this about is it looks like a scrunched guitar shape with a point. It might possibly look a little better if this waist was deeper. Alright, so if this, just for fun, went more like this. Yeah, I like that even less. But I do like this. So maybe more like that. Once you build a couple of guitars, you know, everybody tends to start to, I want to build my own crazy shape. I want to get away from the standards and do my own thing. But designing a shape that looks good and is functional is not easy. There are a lot of tricks and caveats to it, and I don't know that I've ever accomplished it. You know, I've gone the route most people do in trying to just slightly alter an existing shape. But there are a number of things you really need to consider. I mean, just functionally, it's good to have, I mean, the top of the body needs to be a little deeper into the board, whether it's a cutaway or not. You need, I mean, whether it's a horn or not, you need something for a strap button. You want something where the strap button can be angled ever so slightly down, or at the worst case scenario, horizontal to the neck, so that, you know, there's less chance that the strap button's going to come off. I mean, the strap's going to come off of the button. It's not everybody has done it. I mean, even mainstream guitars, but it's nice to. You're not supposed to put your guitar on the floor, but people do, and it's good if the shape at the butt has some way to support the weight, so that, you know, it will sit that way and not fall over. It's nice to have a waist for it to sit on the leg when you're sitting, and also some meat down here and some type of a bottom horn so you can hold it in more of a classical fashion. And then, of course, the waist at the top and the geometry in here needs to be fairly conducive to comfort from the arm. So when it comes to designing a body shape, you there are some things that limit your options a little, generally. Now, you can just, ignore some of those, and, life will go on. People still like, the warlock, for example. There are some body shapes that functionally have some issues, and people still like them. So, but it's always something I try to keep in mind when I'm looking at trying to come up with a new body shape. And with any kind of art, it's generally very useful to step back and look at it from different distances and angles, especially angles. This just looks a little fat and clunky to me, but I'm not entirely sure what to do about it. Unless we start to just have the tiniest little bit of an S curve to that. Come a little more into the curve of that horn, or the cutaway for that horn. Kind of seems like maybe that curve needs to be tightened up a little too. Come as more of a, not as tight as the waist curve, but just more of a projection of it. And that didn't really accomplish that, but if this one cuts back, this one needs to tighten up. I don't like that. But you don't know until you try. And I don't like the cut back here. But I do kind of want this to progressively get fatter up until we taper off abruptly. And I think we've kind of accomplished that. Okay. Okay, let me find some MDF. Let's see if we can start making templates. Thanks for joining me. If you like what we're doing, if you're digging it, like and subscribe. Catch you next time.